The NBA is back, and our next guest is one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. During his 19-year All-Star career, he became the NBA's all-time leader in both assists and steals. We welcome to the desk Hall of Famer John Stockton on First Take. You are the greatest, or one of the greatest point guards, but you're also a co-author. Is that okay if we call you co-author? What would you prefer?
You call me anything you like. I answer to anything.
Be careful on this show.
Oh, they will do that, yes. You have a new book entitled Assisted. We want to ask you about that. If someone's at home saying, hey, I want to buy that book, what would they learn about you that they don't already know?
Well, I think they'd learn more about the people that contributed to my life than about me. I'm a very unlikely subject for anything. People didn't think I'd make my high school team, let alone the NBA. So all these people that had a hand in my progress as a person and a player are in there. And those are the things, that's a statement I wanted to make with the book.
So John Stockton, as Kerry mentioned, you are the NBA's all-time leader in assists by 3,700 over the second place in the assist category, who's Jason Kidd. That's staggering to me. So please help me out. We now have a new breed of NBA quote-unquote point guards who I consider shoot-first point guards. Two guards sort of masquerading as point guards. Would you please put that in some perspective for me from your eyes?
Well, I do think there's a lot of shoot-first guards out there now. There were when I was playing. I think there's a lot of ways to play the point guard position, and kind of depends on what your team needs, what your team's asking for, and of course what your skills are. So I was fortunate that I kind of got giggles out of throwing passes and trying to do that, and I had great teammates that could make baskets. So just the wisdom kind of kicked in there, is if we're going to win ball games, I've got to get the people that are really good at scoring. A lot of these teams need these guys to score, so I don't look at it necessarily as a detriment to their team. It could very well be a positive, but I'm not sitting in their locker rooms.
Stephen A.
John Stockton, that's the argument that I've been making with Skip for quite some time. It's not like they walk in saying, I don't care about passing the ball, I want to shoot. It's that they're being required to do it not just because of their skill set, but because of the skill set of those around them. If you were some of these players, I mean, to me, what do you think about the perimeter shot, the existence of the perimeter shot in today's game? I think that at one time during your playing career, it was far better and far more reliable during your day than it is today. I don't think you see a lot of shooters today the way you did in the past. What do you say to that?
I'd agree to that. It's a deadly weapon. I mean, to get 3 points for a shot is a huge advantage, and if you can do it and do it with a high percentage, I think go for it. Right now, I think people kind of fall back on that. It's an easier shot than going in the post. It's an easier shot than driving in there and dealing with all the bodies and getting knocked down in the paint. So I think people settle for it, and if the percentages don't match up, then I think you better find a way to have a big presence inside. And the league's gone through all kinds of changes for years. I mean, the big point guard, then the little point guards, shooting, non-shooting. I think it'll continuously change as people figure out new ways to compete against. Right now, probably the Heat, figure out a way to play them, and then in a few years, it'll be somebody else. So the adjustments are constantly being made at each position.
So, John, earlier in the show, we debated Derrick Rose's welcome back game last night. Had a tough game against a very good defensive team on their floor, but he winds up with 5 turnovers to only 4 assists. Put his game in perspective, what you've seen from Derrick so far in his career.
He's just one of the most explosive athletes I think I've seen. I mean, he is seems calm, then all of a sudden like a rocket, he's on the basket and so powerful, and his ability to score, he really shows his abilities every night. I look at, it's one game, and obviously it's against the Heat, great defensive team, but it's one game. Even if it wasn't against them, you're going to have ups and downs, and it's the guys that I think get better over the course of seasons and careers, and just kind of stay the course, so to speak, until at the end of the year you'll have a pretty good idea where you fit in.
So, last quick question. Obviously, this guy named Jordan took a couple of championships away from you guys in Utah. I'm sure you still haven't quite gotten over that. A lot of talk. Now LeBron's talking about that his goal, obviously, is to become the greatest ever. He's on that path right now. Do you see him, in your mind's eye, can you ever see LeBron James being greater than Michael Jordan?
Well, I think they're different. I know I'm going to straddle the fence here, but I don't know that they're the only two in the conversation, first of all.
That's fair.
I've played with Michael. I played against Michael. Phenomenal player. He'd certainly be one of the top guys I ever played against. I never had a chance to play against LeBron, nor did I have a chance to play against Wilt Chamberlain and so on. So there's a lot of guys that fit into that category, in my opinion. LeBron could certainly write record books from here on forward. He's a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal player.
Who else is in that conversation? You mentioned Will.
Personally?
Yeah.
Magic Johnson,
Okay.
Larry Bird. I didn't see much of Elgin Baylor, but anybody that did spoke highly of him and they think he's in that category. I'm sure there's a lot more, but you'd have to be more of an expert on the game.
Could we put the two-headed monster of Stockton and Malone in that category?
Boy, that would sure be a nice compliment,
Yeah.
but I don't think that I'm not going to speak for Carl. I think Carl's a phenomenal player and certainly could be warranted in that conversation, but people would just think I'm biased.
Before you go, let me ask you this question. In your opinion, who is today's John Stockton, if there is someone? Who reminds you of you in this league?
Boy, I don't know. There's so much attention and there's so much coverage in the NBA nowadays. There's very few dark horses, and that's kind of how I picture myself a little bit, kind of behind the scenes a little bit, and try to be an effective player and help my team. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys that do that, but I think we hear about a lot of them.
So there's no John Stockton.
The answer is
there's
none.
no one, Gary. The end of that story. John Stockton assisted. It came out on Tuesday. Folks can go to the stands and get it right now, correct?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much for joining us. You were a
Thank you for
true
having me.
pleasure. Enjoy yourself on campus
you.
today.